Hey, so this is part two of Dr. Chris Martenson's presentation on energy at the Global Capitalist, and this is my thoughts on it. This is adapted from his and some others as well. So, real quick, found a cool little part of this graph where it talks about relative. If you look at solar, wind, modern biofuels, renewables, it's like 3 or 4%, right? I mean, hydropower beats it. Just alone beats all of them combined. But here's a question. If we could get all of these to replace these, right? If we get renewables to replace oil, gas, and coal, what would be needed to do it? In other words, do we have the ability, right? So let's take a look at it. So real quickly, in 2019, oops, do this. We used about 170. Where is it? 2019. 173 million, 1,000 terawatt hours. Okay, so let's do some conversions. Let's convert to kilowatts. So in 1 terawatt is a billion kilowatts. Okay, so there are a billion kilowatts that we use in our world per year. Okay, so we need these guys to get somewhere close, right? It doesn't have to be a billion kilowatts, right? Or 173 billion kilowatts, but it needs to be close to it or something like that, right? Especially as we use more energy as we go. Because this is 2019. If we look back just at 2020, let's do 2009. Okay, I mean we've gone up by like 45. What is it? 30,000 terawatts. Excuse me, terawatts per year, right? That's a huge amount, and just keeps going up exponentially, type thing. So let's take a look at it. All right. So real quick, first we're gonna do is we're gonna look at how many windmills we'll need. Okay. So if we take each windmill generates 3.5 million kilowatt hours per year. Okay. So we're gonna take. We're just gonna copy. That's a lot of zeros. I'm just gonna copy paste this onto here. Boom. Divided by 3.4 million equals. We need 51 million windmills. And that's on a low, I would say. Here's why. Windmills break just like everything else. You need to fix them while they're down. You don't want to, not have power on, right? Number two, the wind. We've all felt, heavy winds one day, right? As we walk outside or we're driving or something, and then the next day or the next week, it's just nothing. There's nothing there, right? It's not a windy day. It's just very still, right? Especially times in like the summer where we're using a lot of energy to cool our homes and such, right? Especially if you live in the south or near the equator, right? Again, these we're talking about global needs here, not just if you live in like Ottawa, Canada, or something like that, but global needs. So we're going to need this at a baseline, right? Or something like it with other renewable resources, or maybe we just need 40 million. Okay. And then we can get the other, whatever we need from others. My point is this: it's going to take a whole lot of windmills. I mean, 50 million windmills. That's a lot of windmills. Okay, I don't know if we can fit that many in a certain place, right? And have them work the way we want them to. Okay, number two. All right, Elon Musk says, once we get to a point to where we have enough energy per year, it becomes a storage issue, right? So let's just pretend that we can get to these 50 million windmills, okay? And again, it could be solar panels, it could be a mix, but my point is it's going to be a lot, right? And we're not even going to go into how much steel do we need? How much of this? We're going to go in, how much copper do we need? Stuff like that, right? And then how much energy do we need to smelt these and to put them up? Okay, we're not going to go into those. We're going to go into some simple other things, right? So let's just say 6.4 kilowatts. So how much lithium? We're just going to go through one real quick. So where'd it go? Okay, so let's go through power first, right? How much power can they hold? This is about it says it holds about 100 kilowatt hours, and I'm going to use Tesla's car, right? Because we can use the battery pack. It was a bit hard for not find information, but we're just going to say, what about cars, right? How many cars do we need on the road, or battery operated cars do we need on the road, EVs, to get our energy? Because you can plug these into your house and use them, right? This gives us an idea of the battery package, right? It may be a little off, but we're going to get an idea. So they can hold 100 kilowatt hours, right? Each battery. So if we are using this many kilowatts per year, the world divided by 100, well, we're going to need we're going to need that many battery packs, right? 1 billion battery packs. No, hold on. Million, billion, 1 trillion, 1.7 trillion battery packs. Okay, maybe we'll make them a little bigger, maybe not, but here, let's do this. Okay, let's just work with what we've got. Okay, because we're going after lithium. How much lithium is in a battery pack? Let's see here. 22 pounds of lithium. Okay, let's convert that. So let's do. So we need 1.7 trillion times 22 pounds, right? And we're converted to there we go, tons. So times 2.2. So this is how many kilograms we need of lithium. Okay, that's how many tons we need. So let's go into how do we mine this stuff, right? So these are the largest lithium mines: Australia, one in Chile, and one in China. So 55,000. They mine metric tons per year. It's a lot of lithium. 26,000 metric tons and 14,000 metric tons, right? That gives us about 95. I'm going to round up to 100 metric tons. Okay. Just say there's some smaller mines or something like that, right? So this is how many, we're going to round down how many tons we need. Okay, let me do it this way. All right, invalid input. All right, divided by 100 million ton, or what was it, 100,000? Yeah, 100,000. Okay. So this is how many years it's going to take us. 900,000 years to get as much as we need. We produce about 100 tons. We need this many tons of lithium to support the batteries we need to hold the power that we use per year. Okay, it's just not going to work, right? We don't have the raw resources right now to do it, to produce as much. So, what else? Yeah, largest lithium mines in the world. So here's my point. We want to get these guys up, right? In other words, let's do the relative. We want to get these percentages up on the top 3 or 4, right? But we don't have the raw resources in order to do that. Okay, and we're not even talking about how much of the bottom 3 of the 4, gas, oil, and coal, are we going to need to use to smelt the amount of steel. 66 or 70% of a windmill is steel, right? You got to smelt that, you got to form it, you got to ship it, type thing. You got to pay people to do it. They got to have cars, all that good stuff, right? So here's my point. I'm all for going green. Actually, 1 minute. My next car to be a Tesla. Once the prices get somewhat decent, right? But using renewable resources, we just don't have the raw materials to do so right now. And now that by the time to set it up, right, that's gonna be an issue. Let's jump up to a different set of oil. So let's see here. Let's look at rigs count. These are in the U.S., right? This is U.S. rig count type thing, not counting. This is total U.S. rig count, not counting by basin or anything like that. But let's jump to another part, right? Because I'll end that other segment saying, hey, we don't have enough resources to make the Green New Deal work. Let me say that again. We don't have enough resources to make the Green New Deal work. We just don't. Okay. I wish we did. We would probably push those numbers up a little bit. But for right now, we are very dependent on these three guys. Very dependent. But let's take a look at those, and let's take a look at those guys. I'm going to look at pretty much oil and natural gas, right? Here's the rig count. So how do we get oil and natural gas? Well, we pull it out of the ground. Not too, I think we all knew that, okay? How do we do that? Well, you set up a rig, right? You have oil rigs, you have natural gas rigs. This is all rigs. I'm taking a look at this. The most it goes back is 5 years, but I mean you can see some consistency 2017 through 2019, right? There was between we'll just say on a conservative 900 to below 1100, for the most part, right? 2019, the oil and gas is going to get hit hard, so they're starting to shut some rigs down, right? And then what happened? Well, March of 2020, the pandemic hit, and oil went. Right? And then we only had about we had less than 300 rigs, man, especially if it was, and here's the price of crude too, by the way, right? We were at an all-time low in 2020, okay, because the price of crude's down. So things started to recover, right? Life was a little, this whole year, all of 2020 was really kind of, the first year after the pandemic started was a little kind of wonky, right? But things started to recover, demand starts to come back, and oil prices start to fly up, okay? And rig counts start to come up slowly. Hey, oil's going up, we can make money, let's put some rigs out there, right? But here's the thing. So right now, before the pandemic, we had just under 800 rigs. Okay, when the pandemic hit. This is current day. This is June. This is June 24th, so about 3 weeks ago. We have less rigs than we had before the pandemic. Okay, but demand is an all-time high. People want to get out. They want to shop. They want to do stuff type thing. The world wants to get back to where it was. None of that. But you see restrictions from countries and this stuff, right? So my point is that oil and gas, until we get the rig count up to here, it's going to be pretty tight for a while, right? Especially in the U.S. So, and let's do this. U.S. Consumption of oil daily. Okay, we consume, this is the important part, we consume 20 million barrels of oil a day on average, right? On average. And let's do this. U.S. We produce, let me see here. Yeah, 16 million. That's actually up a bit. Okay. So normally we produce it's about 11 is typical. At least maybe production's gone up a bit, which is good. It's good for us. So, but we are still at a deficit. Okay. And here's 14 million. Yeah. So, 2016. All right. Yeah, about 16 million barrels of oil today. Okay. So we are still at a deficit of about 3 to 4 million barrels. Let's just say 3.5 million barrels. In other words, to keep the lights on and everything going at the rate which we're burning oil, we need 3.5 million barrels of oil a day, right? So we're at a negative we got to find those 3.5 million barrels from somewhere. We're going to buy from somewhere, right? We're not producing enough oil. Our rigs are not producing enough oil to keep up with our current demand, okay? So, here we are. We're at a place where the new deal is not going to work, right? We are not producing enough to keep up with our current demand, All right. And here's a third part. The U.S. the government right now, the current administration is telling people, or is telling everybody, they're not a secret that they want to put um, oil companies out. Right. Here we go. Well, I'm not gonna. That's a pretty one, but when he was a nominee, he said, "Hey, he wants to put them out of business." Okay, he's not being shy about this, and now he orders to boost supply. Right. So here's what's happening. Right. Let's just say, let's pretend that you're a teacher. Okay, you make your living off being a teacher, and the current administration, the current government says, "Hey, in 10 years, we don't want any teachers. No, all of our children will be online learning through videos that teachers have created in the past or whatever like that." And a little far-fetched, but just walk with me down this path, okay? As a teacher, the government is saying in 10 years, you're not going to have a job. So are you going to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to make yourself a better teacher? Are you going to go and put more hours into continuing education, doing all these things, to getting all your, some extra degrees? Are you going to pay an extra $100,000 to get an extra degree to make you a better teacher, to maybe make an extra $5,000 or $10,000 more per year, if in 10 years you're not going to have a job? I don't think you would, right? Here's where oil and gas companies are. It takes them 5 years to put these things out, right? Like if we look at like the investment here, this is a bunch of them putting them out, right? They're not going to put, excuse me, right here, they're not going to put a ton of rigs out, right? They're not going to all of a sudden just throw a bunch of rigs out and have it up to here if they're like, hey, the government's going to shut us down, right? They're not. In other words, Exxon said this. I think it was Exxon or Chevron. I think it was Chevron. Said this perfectly. That said, hey, we've got a 5-year plan that we're going to stick to no matter what the president says. Okay, and it's not really us. It's the fact that we want to drill more, but two things. One, we're not going to risk a bunch of capital. Right, we're not going to take out a bunch of loans that we're going to have to pay back in 20 years if you're going to try and put us out in 10, right? This is going to bankrupt our company. It's just like saying, hey, you're going to get, with the teacher example, right? Let's just say what about new people coming on as older teachers retire, right? Are the new teachers, is anybody going to go get their degree in 4 years and spend, $40 to $120,000 to get a teaching degree and only have a job for 6 years? If the current administration is going to do what they're going to say they're going to do? No, they're not. So now you're going to have the shortage of teachers in a few years, okay? Because there's going to be some that are retiring out, some that'll say right when the president says that, they're going to say, hey, I'm going to retire into this year. I don't need this stuff. I'm older. I'm just going to get along with my life type thing. So that's where they're at. Oil and gas companies are expanding slowly, and they're not taking on a bunch of risk because it seems that the current administration is really pushing them down, not pushing them, but they're trying to put them out of business, right? In other words, they're going to slap them with their left hand and ask for a handout with their right, and it just doesn't work that way, Number two, capital is really constrained, so it's not just about lending to oil and gas companies because the current administration says, oh no, that's bad, and banks have to disclose it, but also because there was a bust. Let's look at this. There was a bust where was it? I think it was 2016. There was a big oil bust. Yeah. So I forget which year it was, so forgive me on this. But there was a huge oil bust, not in the 90s, but I think it was right here in 2015, 2016, where basically what happened was that oil was at a pretty good price. Yeah, about $120 and everything like that. So what happened? Oil and gas companies were taking out loans left and right. Okay, to put up one of these guys one of these rigs on average at the time, in about 2015, it took like 5 million, give or take, right? Now it's up to like 8 or 10 because of inflation. But it took like, 5 or 10 million, right? So what they would do is they would go borrow $100 million, put out 20 rigs, right? Awesome, great stuff, right? And they're gonna have to pay the bank back, but it's cool. We can afford it. Oil's at 120, 123, 134, whatever dollars a barrel. Cool. All right. Well, some competition got smart, like some other nations got smart, and they said, hey, we see all these American companies that are over leveraged, right? And it's going to take them 5 years to pay these things back or whatnot, right? And none of that, but they're keep reinvesting. So, let's say they borrow 100 million, right? And they make 20. What do? They go put out, 4 more rigs, and then they keep going, and they keep throwing it back into it, right? So what happens? Saudi, when those conglomerates turned on the spigots, they said, hey, we're going to drive oil prices way down by producing a lot, right? All these American companies that got their debt with using these base numbers for their returns can't service it at a fraction of that. They can't service it as a quarter of it, right? And so they went out of business. And the banks remember this, okay? So the same bankers are like, hey, we're not going to give loans right now. We're not going to give, we'll give a little bit, but maybe not a ton. But we're not going to, we remember what happened, and we're going to be wiser with our lending in the future, right? So that's what's happening right now. And this is why oil and gas is going up. So I'm going to switch a little bit and talk about some other items as well. We talked about infrastructure, we talked about the Green New Deal and stuff like that, how we're heavily dependent on these guys, it's not going to happen. But let's talk about what happens with oil, and this is why it's such a good investment, by the way. What happens to oil in a recession? We talked a little about that in the last video. So here you see these gray things are recessions, right? This little one is the 2020 recession, which in my opinion was not a real recession, right? This was the great financial recession, 2008. That was a real recession. And here's one in the kind of the dot-com bubble type thing. I think it burst in like December or whatever, January, and then you see the fallout by February and stuff like that, right? Oops. Okay, so here's what happened. I remember this because I was graduated, and I had friends in the oil field, right? Actually, let's get this inflation adjusted out. So I remember oil hit about 150 for a little while, and like 2 weeks, they kind of came back, right? So oil, as we see, oil is going up, and this gray bar is where the recession starts, right? And it goes through, and then eventually oil, like everything, that will cut its legs out from under, cut its legs out from under itself, right? So it dropped, and it went down pretty hard, right? To about 100, it went from like 150 to about $40 a barrel, right? Ooh, horrible, like, bad investment, James. Let's do it this way. So that's January 2009. Within about a year, less than a year and a half, it already went up 50% back, right? And then you put another year on it, and it's up again, right? So my point is this. I think in this cycle, this is where I'm at in my thoughts, okay? I think in this cycle, this right here is about right, maybe right there, right here, somewhere like that, right? I think we're gonna hit way up here. Like when it goes to 150 a barrel, it's about right here. That's gonna be a telling factor, right? In other words, right now at about 120, and again, let's see here, let's go to 5 years. Yeah, we're kind of hovering around 120. Okay, it's a little off, but it's kind of gone up and down from 120 a little bit, right? This is when we break this line, when we break 120, that's going to be okay. And the engine, the thing is starting to hit the red line, just the beginning, right? We can still push it. We're not going too bad, right? But that's when it's going to be we'll see what happens, right? When oil comes up and breaks 150, I think that's when we're going to be in the middle-ish, right? And we're just going to see what happens there, okay? If oil breaks 200 and goes way up here, that's when I'm gonna be like, man, I need to sell some sell some mineral rights or something like that. So, I think oil is gonna break itself. In other words, this new 140, 150 line, I think our new 140, 150 line is gonna be around the 200s where we're at, right? And that's gonna cause a lot of pain, lots of pain to consumers, tons. But I do have a way out for you, right? I am for the last 2 years, I've been investing in oil and gas quite a bit, and so I've actually got I'm buying mineral rights, and if you're interested and want to know more about that, it is great. It is an asset class that a lot of people don't know about. But if you think rentals and real estate are good, oil and gas mineral rights are even better because there's literally no work. In rentals, there's work, or you pay somebody else to do it, right? I mean, one way or the other, there's work. With mineral rights, there is no work. There's no liability. It is a fixed asset that just produces that you can live for generation and generation on. This is why a lot of people just hand them down to their kids, because a house has taxes and insurance. Has a mortgage if you've got a loan. You got to fix the thing, they're like a roof being redone and toilets and all this other stuff and foundation issues. These things happen over time. Oil and gas, you just pump it out of the ground type thing. And the best thing about it is your tenants are not, people that are scraping it by, or are you sure you got 3 times the amount of income? Are you sure? These are multi-million-dollar oil and gas companies, sometimes billion-dollar oil and gas companies that are your tenants that are pulling stuff out of the ground. And so right now our returns are huge. But if this interests you in that, I'm gonna put some links in the button below to contact me at. Give me a contact. We can talk about it. We can go. I'll answer all the questions you have. But here's what you need to know. Oil and gas may take a hit, right? Let's see, like today it went down $1. I'm not really worried about that, right? If you look at this, that's natural gas. If you look at crude, it's gone up, hit, a little over 120, and it just kind of bounces up and down, right? I'll be honest with you. I am super happy if it bounces between 100 and 120 all day long. Oh, I'm just making so much money. It's great. Okay. But if that happens, then I'm completely cool with it type thing. If it goes up a little more, it'll still be good, but I don't want it to break itself. So we're just gonna see what happens. Right now, oil is going up and down. The president is having some effects on that. But here's the thing: some people thought oil was going to correct itself and go down to like $65 a barrel, right? So 2021. Okay. When it corrected, it broke 100 for like a day or two, and then it popped back up. Okay. It is my opinion, my thought is that oil will not break $90 until one of two things happen, right? One, we get a recession, like a big recession, and then it'll break it, but it'll start to come right back up. Okay. Try to go to work without oil and gas type thing. It's not going to work. Number two, I think I think we're going to have a presidential change one way or the other, and I think the new president will actually have to start drilling more, and I think that is going to really affect it, right? But here's the other thing that when you invest in mineral rights, you get. And where did it go? Here, crude. There we go. It's right in front of my face. You get natural gas. And here's an important one to look at. Natural gas typically sits around $2 to $3, maybe $4, right, per cubic whatever. It hit 8, and then it dropped down and corrected to 6. So my point is this: we get royalties off natural gas as well, and right now we're getting double what the average is, and this will not slow down because just Google Germany and Russia natural gas, and you'll see why. I'll tell you the cliff notes of this is that Russia may be stopping. They may stop sending Germany natural gas. Right. It starts. Right now the pipeline is down for quote unquote routine maintenance, and it started today, and it's supposed to take like 10 days, 7 to 10 days, something like that. A lot of people are thinking that, hey, it's not going to come back on. There's going to keep being maintenance needed or something like that because Germany's like, bad Russia, you started this war. Some people think it may not turn on as efficiently, right? It may be only half the amount of gas they used to. But either way, Europe is looking for other sources for natural gas. And the price is so high right now, what we can do in the US is we can compress it, liquefy it into a liquid, put it in a storage tanker, and ship it across and still make money. That's what we're doing, right? So anyway, this has been my presentation. This has been my kind of piggybacking off a lot that Chris talked about. Hopefully it made sense. Again, I am recovering from the 2020 bug. So if you have any questions or something I didn't explain right, go ahead and post and comment. Let me know. And again, if you have some interest in oil and gas investing, reach out to me because as I tell people, you're going to pay for oil and gas one way or the other, right? You're going to pay at the pump or you're going to invest in it and you're going to make money. Those are your two choices. So it is up to you. But again, we're all going to invest in oil and gas in one way or the other, right? At the pump or we're going to invest in it and get more money in our bank account. So I'll leave you with that. Again, reach out to me if you're interested and we will talk more.